عصف الأنين بداخلي كم مرة قد ذاق قلبي من أساه محلا تمر وكم كرهت مصابها لكن رأيت الخير يسكب في أنا كم مرة قد ضقت من عظم البلاء.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين ما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Once again we are discussing the Holy Grail of the Wahhabis, Ultra Najdis, Super Salafees, which is Khurooj, the Holy Grail, which they cannot concede that the mas'ala at hand or the ruling at hand or the topic at hand, they have deceptively put the wool over their gullible sheep's eyes, and now we are giving them a clear dosage of facts. And Trainwreck Part 1 and Part 2 have already exposed Abdulrahman Hassan, the puppet who is currently basking in the United Arab Emirates, and we've got some hard questions to obviously deal with later on in the video. Now, why this topic is so important to the neo-Salafees, Madkhalis, is because their religion is based upon certain matters. Obviously, geopolitics has a root in it, but as I mentioned earlier, the Holy Grail, Khurooj, is vitally important to them. Number 2, the patron saint, Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab. And number 3, the Trinity. What I mean by the Trinity is in connection to the Cambridge University definition of a group of 3 persons or people, which is the Sheikhs or Shuyukh bin Baz rahmatullah alayh, Al-Albani rahmatullah alayh, and Sheikh Ibn Uthaymin rahmatullah alayh. So these 3 matters is what really we can define as neo-Salafism or Wahhabism in our modern times. But that's just a side note. I thought I'll just address that just to sort of cover all ground. Now, Khurooj, the Holy Grail of the Super Salafees Madkhalis. In Trainwreck Part 3, we will be discussing the whole adage which has been regurgitated by the neo-Salafees and their likes regarding the matter of rebellion. And I also have to stress again and again and again that Khurooj, it is not ideal, and one should obey his ruler even though he's oppressive. But there's different types of oppression. There's macro oppression and there's micro oppression, and depending on the level of oppression, one can, if he has the means, the capabilities, and this is why Sheikh Muqbil rahmatullah alayhi said it's a masail ijtihadiyya. This is why grand ulama said that it's a masail ijtihadiyya, and also ulama from the Shafi'iyya have said it's a masail al-dhanniyya furu'iyya, that this is from the masail al-dhanniyya, from the speculative subsidiary matters. So we've been hearing the claims of ijma', and again, obviously, as I stated before, these people have been notorious. This group or cult rather have been notorious in sort of propagating this. Now, another person or imam that they are using, and again you will see how deceptive and manipulative Abdulrahman Hassan is. Uqsumu billahi al-ali al-azim. I am shocked how he even attempts this. But you know why? Prior to myself and others, he was, regurgitating his, box-headed methodology or slave methodology, which is obviously suited to tyrannical rulers, and no one really placed a microscope under his words. And today you will see, and again we'll show you in the past as well, which is a snippet, how this man has no fear of Allah Azza wa Jal, to the point that he'll add words in, he'll manipulate words into the translations. And honestly, you wonder, is this man really a regurgitating parrot? Like, he just regurgitates what comes from above and has no critical thinking, as Brother Hijab said, or Hijab, that he has no critical thinking. It's just parrot. He's a regurgitating machine. He has a screen behind him. This self-religiosity, that he's got a screen behind him with all the quotes, and he's reading behind it, and he's portraying or purporting that he's got this memorization skills, which I do agree to a certain extent. He's got good memorization skills, but regurgitating what you memorize without critical thinking is just something that they're part and parcel of. Remember, my premise is to do with rebelling against an unjust Muslim oppressive ruler. That's where my contention is with these box-headed Madkhalis, neo-Salafees, Super Salafees. Not with rulers in general. Now there's different types of rulers. You got the just, legitimate ruler, you got the oppressive tyrant ruler, and you got the kafir murtad ruler. It's nuanced. We have to understand which type of rulers are we talking about. So in rulers in general, yes, a ruler, obedience should be given. That's the asal of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. You obey the ruler. That is the asal. Now, when it comes to specifically the oppressive Muslim ruler, that's where we've got the contention. I'm going to play the clip for you and listen to how Abdulrahman Hassan manipulatively distorts the actual quotation from Imam Bukhari. And we will present so many different arguments to prove our position. Talking from the Muhaddithun, how they explain the passage which he mistranslates and distorts. Have a listen.
I need to mention Imam Bukhari because this was very powerful.
Yeah, and plus he's someone that everybody knows.
Bukhari said, لقيت أكثر من 1000 رجل. I met more than 1,000 men.
Wow.
من أهل العلم، أهل الحجاز ومكة والمدينة والكوفة والبصرة وواسط وبغداد والشام ومصر. لقيتهم كرات. I met them time after time. قرنا بعد قرن ثم قرنا بعد قرن. أدركتهم. I met them all. متوافرون أكثر من 46 سنة. 46 years. أهل الشام ومصر والجزيرة مرتين والبصرة 4 مرات في سنين ذوي عدد بالحجاز 6 أعوام ولا أحصي عدة كم دخلت الكوفة وبغداد مع محدثي أهل خراسان منهم. Oh, and then he mentions all people he met. He mentions all of them. And then look what he says after that. After he mentions all of them, he mentions what they believed and their aqidah. He mentions their aqidah is what? وَأَلَّا نُنَازِعَ الْأَمْرَ أَهْلَهُ. That we don't go against the oppressive Muslim leader. لقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, because of the Prophet's statement, and then he mentions the hadith. And then after, look what he says, وَأَلَّا يَرَى السَّيْفَ عَلَى أُمَّةِ مُحَمَّدٍ. And they do not see the sword upon Ummah Muhammad. Al-Imam al-Lalaka'i mentions that in his kitab, Sharh Usul I'tiqad Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So they don't believe to huggle with the people of authority. He's mentioned ulama Makkah, والمدينة والكوفة والبصرة وواسط وبغداد والشام ومصر وخراسان. And he's mentioned them what? 46 years. He's mentioned their aqidah. He's mentioned them level after level. When he said karrat, he means jil ba'da jil, generation after generation. That's Imam Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala and his statement.
And then he gets to the passage where Imam Bukhari rahmatullah alayhi says, وَأَنْ لَا نُنَازَعَ الْأَمْرَ أَهْلَهُ. And he translates this as, we do not go against the oppressive Muslim ruler. I'd like to ask you something now. You distorter and you liar. Where is the word oppressive in this passage? Where is the word oppressive in this passage? We're going to get to the shurrah, how they explained this passage. Okay? We're going to get to the shurrah. Okay? And we will show you how much of a distorter you are. Now, I'd like to ask you one more time. Where is the word oppressive in the passage that you translated? Let's get to the book first. Then what we're going to do is we're going to show you the different ahadith or ahadith books which mentions this ahadith, and I'm going to go into the translation of sunnah.com. First, show you how he translated that passage as we do not go against the oppressive Muslim ruler. Where is the word oppressive in there? Okay, where is the word oppressive in there? Okay, so let's get into this. We got Sharh Usul al-I'tiqad Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah by Imam al-Lalaka'i. So as you can see on screen, we've got the passage or the chapter where he mentions I'tiqad Abi Abdullah Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari rahimahullah. So he's mentioning the belief of Abi Abdullah which has been narrated from him. Now we're going to get to the context later on in the video for the full the I'tiqad or main portions of it which Abdulrahman Hassan missed out to present context. But let's get to the main part, okay, which Abdulrahman Hassan quoted. So as you can see, he mentions here, okay, clearly, and we're not going to distort any of the passage. So he mentions وَأَنْ لَا نُنَازِعَ الْأَمْرَ أَهْلَهُ, that the translation he gave, okay, which I'm going to show you the correct translation because this guy is an absolute fraud and distorter. I don't know how, like I said before, I wouldn't trust him with a Walker's pack of crisp of mine, never mind my religion. So he mentions we do not go against the oppressive Muslim ruler. Where is the word oppressive in here? Where is the word oppressive here? Okay, the word oppressive doesn't exist. Okay, that's number one. But we're going to get to the hadith which shows the correct translation. I'm not going to say what it is because I'm going to present it from sunnah.com. And then he presents a hadith which Abdulrahman Hassan did present, which is basically three things which doesn't enter the heart of a Muslim, or hatred does not enter into the heart of the Muslim, which is ikhlasul amal lillah, that doing an action in its sincerity for Allah Azza wa Jal. Basically the hatred for the rulers, okay, so one should not have hatred for the rulers. And the other is adhering to the jama'ah, because basically the call or the da'wah is behind, it's protected, which is behind them. And then it mentions the ayat of Allah Azza wa Jal, which is obey Allah and obey His Messenger and those in authority. Okay, so that's what Imam Bukhari presents. And then he mentioned, then Abdulrahman Hassan presents this passage which mentions that we do not see the sword upon the ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And again, we'll comment on that. So there you go, we got Sharh Usul al-I'tiqad by Imam al-Lalaka'i. Now, the contention here is that, like I said before, the asl of the believer is that he obeys the ruler. That is the normative position from Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that we obey the ruler. The normative position or the foundation or the asl is not that we disobey the ruler. We obey him. And when he oppresses, we have patience. As I mentioned earlier, depending on the level of oppression. We'll get to shura later. Now, what I'm going to do, okay, I'm going to show you the translation, okay, and this is from sunnah.com, to show you that this man distorted the phrase وَأَنْ لَا نُنَازِعَ الْأَمْرَ أَهْلُهُ, and he said we do not go against the oppressive Muslim ruler. Let's listen to me first before we present it, because what I'm going to do is every time I present it from sunnah.com, I'm going to present his translation, and then I'm going to go into the explanation of that phrase from the muhaddithun. So have a listen of him.
He mentions the aqidah is what? وَأَلَّا نُنَازِعَ الْأَمْرَ أَهْلَهُ, that we don't go against the oppressive Muslim leader. لقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, because of the Prophet's statement, and he mentions the hadith.
Okay, so you heard Abdulrahman Hassan clearly say, after mentioning that passage, we do not go against the oppressive Muslim ruler. Now I ask you again, Ya Kadhab, where is the word oppressive in this passage? It doesn't exist. Now, to prove my case even further, I'm going to present the English translation, and then I'm going to go into the hadith from all of these books, because this hadith is, mentioned in all of these books. So Abdurrahman the fraudster lied to you and distorted the translation, which is common for him, isn't it? It's really common. He added the word oppressive in there to force that Imam Bukhari exclusively meant oppressive rulers, like our contention was, like I mentioned, is with the oppressive ruler, not rulers in general. A just ruler, haram bil ijma'. You can't rebel against a just, righteous ruler. You can't. It's haram bil ijma'. Where the contention is the oppressive ruler. He added the word oppressive to distort the passage, which we're going to get to, as I mentioned before, the shurrah, and we're going to get to other hadith books and sunnah.com to show you that this man's a manipulator. And we're going to present the Arabic from each hadith book. It's 4,149 here, but mine is 4,154. I don't know, it's slightly different. But anyway, so as you can see with the arrows over, it says what? How was it translated? I'll put it back on screen. It was translated how? We would not contend with the orders of whomever was entrusted with it. Where is the word oppressive in here, Abdulrahman Hassan? Doesn't exist. Don't worry, we're going to get into the shurrah, we're going to go into al-ubbi, we're going to get, which you manipulate. We're going to show you a blast from the past, how you manipulated him. Al-ubbi's, explanation. Qadi Iyad's explanation. Ibn Wazir al-Yamani al-Mujtahid's explanation. Don't you worry about it. We're going to show you the explanation of the actual phrase as well. It's not translated that we will not go against the oppressive Muslim ruler. He added that in there. Let's go to now, 4,151, sorry. So there you go again, we've got it. I'm going to present another part of the hadith as well. So there you go again. And what does it say in the 4,151? We would not contend with the orders of whoever was entrusted with it. 4,151. Let's go to 4,152. So as you can see, that we will not contend with as you see on screen, we will not contend with the orders of whoever was entrusted with it. Where is the word oppressive in here, Abdurrahman Hassan? And let's go to the last one. 4,153. As you can see again, it states, so we got 4,152, 4,152, now 4,153 again, okay? And what does it say with the translation is? What does it say? We would not contend with the orders of whomever was entrusted with it. Subhanallah al-Azim. Don't worry, we're going to go back to this hadith later to show you the end of it in the Arabic, and we're going to show you obviously what's been going on in the land where he is currently, and it shows that this man wouldn't speak the truth. Now we're going to go into Riyadh al-Salihin. Riyadh al-Salihin is here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, as I did before, I'm going to show you the English translation. Okay, the English translation. So as you can see on screen, 186. What does it say? Okay, and to not dispute about rule with those in power. Do not dispute, or not to dispute about rule with those in power. Where does it say we do not go against the oppressive ruler here? Let's listen to Abdulrahman Hassan.
He mentions the aqidah is what? وَأَلَّا نُنَازِعَ الْأَمْرَ أَهْلَهُ. That we don't go against the oppressive Muslim leader. لِقَوْلِ النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وسلم, because of the Prophet's statement. And then he mentions the hadith.
There you go. So it's not in the translation, you've mistranslated it. And as I said before, we're going to the Shura later. Let's go to 186. As you can see on screen, we've got Riyadh al-Salihin. Okay, we've got what? Riyadh al-Salihin. And this is by Imam Nawawi rahmatullah alayh. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the passage now. And as where the arrow is over, okay, I'm just trying to find there you go, I've got it. There you go, I've got it. So as you can see where the arrow's over, what does it say? Clearly there for you, okay? And what's the translation? Let's get it back up. And not to dispute about rule with those in power. Which rulers? Which rulers that we shouldn't dispute with? We're going to get to the Shura later. Okay? The exact same quote. Which ruler should we not dispute with? Is it the oppressive ruler, or is it the just ruler? This is what I mean. This is where he added that distortion in there, because he's an absolute fraud. I wouldn't waste my time with this individual. Like I said before, I wouldn't trust this man with my Walker's crisp. Honestly, this is how much of a distorter he is. Subhanallah. There you go. Riyadh al-Salihin. We got that out of the way now. Now we got Imam Malik. Okay, we're going to go into Imam Malik's Muwatta. Okay, so let's bring up the translation first. Then we show you the Arabic, as we've been doing. And then we play Abdulrahman Hassan's distortion. So as you can see, he mentions that, as where the arrow's over, and to not dispute with the people in authority. Which ruler do you not dispute with authority? Okay, we'll get to that later. So look at the translation here, and not to dispute with the people in authority. Don't worry, we're going to play Abdulrahman's distortion once again. We're going to play Abdulrahman Hassan's video constantly to let it digest how much of a fraud and a distorted this man is. So let's go to the hadith. This is in hadith number 999 in my book. So as you can see on screen, okay, we've got Al-Muwatta of Imam Malik. So as you can see, we've got the hadith number 5. Okay, there you go. The arrow's over. And what's the translation? Okay, let's get it back up. The translation is what? And not to dispute with the people in authority. Okay? To not dispute with the people of authority. Let's play back Abdulrahman Hassan's translation.
He mentions the aqidah is what? وَأَلَّا نُنَازِعَ الْأَمْرَ أَهْلَهُ. That we don't go against the oppressive Muslim leader. لِقَوْلِ النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وسلم, because of the Prophet's statement. And then he mentions the hadith.
Where the hell did he get that translation from? And we do not go against the oppressive Muslim ruler. As I'm showing you, from hadith book after hadith book. There you go. Muwatta, Al-Muwatta of Imam Malik. So Abdulrahman Hassan, where is the word oppressive in this particular passage? Where is the word oppressive? Where is the word oppressive, mate? Doesn't exist. You added it in. You distorted it. You forced it in. Because like I mentioned earlier, when I get to the Shura, they would explain what this passage means. Not you. Not a Wahhabi like you. Not a closet takfiri like you, who made blanket and chain takfir, or blanket takfir rather, on the Brelvis. Okay? Because you are a quote-unquote box-headed Najdi. Don't worry, we're going to get to certain developments in the country that you're in, and to show you, a tawheed and a shirk, silent, whispers, can't even hear you. Can't even hear a pin drop. So the last one, we got Sahih Muslim by Imam Muslim, but this is shot of Imam Nawawi. And this is hadith number 1709. Okay, and as you can see on screen, it mentions, what you can see here, the translation is that when somebody is given preference over us, and without disputing the delegation of powers to a man duly invested with them. Okay, and look what it says in brackets. This is a Super Salafee narrative. Obedience shall be accorded to him in all circumstances. In all circumstances. So he could be Hitler, he could be Mussolini, he could be all of these tyrant, oppressive rulers, mass oppression, but in all circumstances. You see that? No, not exactly, mate. So anyway, as you can see, we put the translation up, and subhanallah al-azim, we've got it all there for you. So you see in the English, okay, Abdulrahman Hassan made it seem that Imam al-Bukhari spoke about the oppressive ruler, okay, when he didn't mention anything about the oppressive ruler. Honestly, Abdulrahman Hassan, do you have no shame? Do you have no shame? And to the gullible following, have you got no intellect, no understanding to clearly see the distortion right in front of you? Honestly, you're part of a cult. You are so cultish, it's shocking. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go into the actual phrase that Abdulrahman Hassan translated as, we do not go against the oppressive Muslim ruler. We're going to go into the explanation of that phrase now. According to Abdulrahman Hassan, it means we do not go against the oppressive Muslim ruler. Oppressive is not in there at all. So let's go into the shurrah. And remember when he quoted Al-Ubbi, I'm going to play that back for you as well, just to refresh your memory of this man's utter distortions. But let's go into this is a shurrah of Imam Muslim by Al-Ubbi, who's a Maliki scholar. Okay, let's go into his explanation of this particular passage. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to present nuance to this particular topic, because how he was forcing an ijma', because if there's a difference of opinion, there is no ijma'. There's an ikhtilaf. This is a masail ikhtilafiyya, ijtihadiyya, masail al-dhanniyya, furu'iyya. There's no ijma'. Like I said, it's better not to do khurooj, but there's no ijma' on the matter. But I'm going to show you context now, okay, which they don't do. So now, as you can see on screen, we've got the book, which is the Sharh of Imam Muslim by Qadi Iyad al-Maliki, Qadi Iyad. And he mentions, okay, that those who've interpreted the phrase, أَلَا نُنَازِعُ الْأَمْرَ أَهْلَهُ, how's the interpretation of this? How did Abdulrahman Hassan explain it? We do not rebel against the oppressive Muslim ruler. Qadi Iyad says, it means في أئمة العدل وآل الحق. It is referring to that phrase, as he mentioned, we do not go against the oppressive Muslim ruler. It's not translated that at all. He forced that translation in. According to Qadi Iyad, it means the imams of justice and the people of truth, not oppression. This is the whole contention. It's not rulers in general. We haven't got a problem in obeying rulers, but which ruler? Again, generally you obey the ruler even if he's sinful, but depending on the degree of oppression. We have patience with his oppression. We don't obey him in disobedience. Anyway, and then Qadi Iyad says, وَقِيلَ, and it is said, this was basically the speech to the Ansar that basically do not dispute with the Quraysh with the Khilafah. Okay, do not dispute with the Quraysh with the Khilafah. Furthermore, we've got Al-Awasim wal-Qawasim. I'm just coming back to me now. Here you go, Al-Awasim wal-Qawasim. And he mentioned, subhanallah al-azim, وَتَأَوَّلْ هَذِهِ الْقَائِلُ قَوْلَهُ, and the interpretation or the ta'wil, عَلَى إِمَّةِ الْعَدْلِ, it mentions who? The just imams. So let's play back Abdulrahman Hassan.
He mentions the aqidah is what? وَأَلَّا نُنَازِعَ الْأَمْرَ أَهْلَهُ, that we don't go against the oppressive Muslim leader. لقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, because of the Prophet's statement, and then he mentions the hadith.
Oh my God. And then he mentions Qadi Iyad. He says, وَحُجَّةُ الْجُمْحُورِ أَنَّ قِيَامَهُمْ عَلَى الْحَجَّاجِ لَيْسَ بِمُجَرِّدِ الْفِسْقِ. He says that the evidence of the majority that the revolt against Hajjaj wasn't due to his sin. It was because he changed the Sharia and manifested kufr. So those rulers that you're currently being ruled by, are they legitimate Shari'i rulers? Abdulrahman Hassan. Al-Awasim wal-Qawasim carries on. It says in it is a statement of the acceptance of the tahsini ma fa'alu al-Husayn, of the acceptance of what Husayn radhiyallahu anhu did, and his companions, and Ibn Ash'ath and his companions, and the Jumhur basically agreed or restricted permitting khurooj upon those who have this particular attribute, meaning of mass oppression, extreme oppression, etc. He mentions that before. He says that the khurooj is those who was it min dhalika man fahusha dhulma. That he mentions that on the page before, which is 377. But then he mentions amongst those who permitted khurooj against any zalim. Okay, so where's the ijma'? Anyway, then he mentions وَتَعَوَّلَ الْحَدِيثَ الَّذِي فِيهِ, that they interpret the hadith that we do not relinquish those in authority, or don't dispute with those in authority, which is what? عَلَى إِمَّةِ الْعَدْلِ, عَلَى أئمة العدل. He mentions obviously that it's the righteous ruler, the good ruler, not the tyrannical oppressive ruler. Abdulrahman Hassan. We've got Sahih Muslim, which is the sharh written by a Maliki scholar by Al-Ubbi. I'm going to show you the other distortion Abdulrahman Hassan did from this book. So this is Ikmalu al-Mu'allim by Al-Ubbi al-Maliki. Okay, Al-Ubbi al-Maliki. So when he gets to the passage of Ubadah bin Samit radhiyallahu anhu, where he mentions that we do not contend or dispute with those in power. Look what Al-Ubbi writes or comments. He said that Ahl Sunnah have used evidence that it's not permissible to rebel against an imam. Okay, where there's sinning other than kufr. So you don't rebel against an imam who sins without kufr. Now again, this is nuanced, and I'll show you what Al-Ubbi meant. But the others have argued. So this is amongst Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. The others have argued what? What have they argued? That this refers to what? بِأَنَّهُ فِي الْإِمَامِ الْعَدَلِ. But this refers to the just ruler. This refers to the just ruler. So there's a difference of opinion. Meaning that if an imam does fisq, that one shouldn't rebel against him. That I would argue that yes, if an imam does fisq, depending on the level of fisq, okay, again it says بِغَيْرِ kufr, okay, that other than kufr. But there were others that said that this only refers to the imam al-adl. But Abdulrahman Hassan was saying that Imam Bukhari, when he translated the phrase that we do not go against a oppressive Muslim ruler, but Ubbi is saying no. The others have argued. So who are the others? The Imams of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So this passage has an ikhtilaf, meaning that it's not referring to just one angle that you can't do khurooj against an imam other than kufr. This means that this is only referring to the just ruler. So if it's only referring to the just ruler, you don't relinquish you don't contend with power to the just ruler. If there's a fasiq ruler, do you contend depending on the level of oppression and depending if you got shawka, quwwa, mani'a, meaning the logistics, etc. Then he says, and it is said that this was the speech given to the Ansar that do not dispute with the Quraysh when it comes to the Khilafah. Do not dispute with the Quraysh when it comes to the Khilafah. Now coming back to me now, that do not dispute with those in power does not mean how Abdulrahman Hassan forcefully translated or added in the English, we do not go against the oppressive Muslim ruler. Doesn't mean that at all. It means we do not contend with those in power. Now Al-Ubbi is saying, yes, that Ahl Sunnah is used, okay, that one shouldn't rebel against the Imam, okay, who is sinful other than kufr. Okay, that's what he mentions. But what does Al-Ubbi say straight after? Because this is page, as you can see on screen, this is page 528. So neo-Salafees, don't get your hopes up just yet, because Al-Ubbi refutes you. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to now present, okay, a distortion that Abdulrahman Hassan did from the same book. Okay, meaning he wasn't using this book in this particular distortion. He's done many distortions, but I will show you in a previous video which I did, which was which was in Trainwreck Part 2, how it distorts Ubbi in the page after as well. Subhanallah, Abdulrahman Hassan's what's it called, issues with distortion, it just runs in his blood. Have a listen. It's about 7 minutes long, but it refers to the distortion thereafter, because Al-Ubbi also goes into when rebellion is permissible. In certain aspects, using certain evidences. Okay, have a listen.
The statement of Al-Ubbi, the Maliki, he has a kitab called إكمال المعلم. He said قتال والخروج عليهم حرام بالإجماع وقول بعض أصحابنا بأنه يعزل خطأ لأنه مخالف للإجماع. That's Ubbi's statement, and he refutes those people who say otherwise, who argue things like that.
So as you heard, Al-Ubbi, he mentioned Al-Ubbi said this, okay, clearly. And then he said, Ubbi, the haram bil ijma, and those who mukhalif al ijma, and then Ubbi refutes them who say something. But hey, you're not convincing. You are a known distorter. You're a fraud. Because you know what I did? I bought the book, mate. I bought the book because I knew you were lying. And this is part of your 32, 33 names. I'm just showing you. This example here, I'm going to show you that you're a deceptive, disingenuous charlatan. And then this is going to be like you playing on your mind. So hold on, Hajji's exposed me on this. And I mentioned 32, 33. Imagine what else he's got. You're not going to have sleepless nights after this. So now what we'll do is now show you the book, show you the statement. And he's totally misconstrued the statement of Al-Ubbi. He didn't even follow up what Ubbi said. But are we denying that there are certain people that claimed the ijma'? For the record, Ubbi didn't claim the ijma', just to get that out there before I present it. Are we denying that certain scholars, declared that there's an ijma' on khuruj? Yes, but it's wrong. It's a masala khilafiyah. This is wrong. We're not denying that people have said it, but it's not a binding ijma'. It's not ijma' mustaqir. You understand? So let's carry on. So as you can see, we've got the book Iqmal al-Mu'lim, okay, by al-Ubbi. So here's the page. As you know, Abdulrahman Hassan doesn't show you the book because he wants to distort it. That's why he doesn't want to present it on screen for you, because he's an absolute fraud, charlatan, distorter, manipulator. He cannot be trusted. So let's now show you where the deception is, and we'll present his clip as well. So as you can see where the arrow is over, Ubbi saying, it is said. Abdulrahman Hassan didn't start from here. You notice, and I'll show you where he started from. So he says, it is said that the khilaf in that, or that there was an agreement after that one shouldn't rise up and fighting them. See where the arrow's over? So you see the whole passage here? Abdulrahman Hassan, where the arrow's over, starts from here. Okay? So let's just play it back.
The statement of Al-Ubbi, the Maliki, he has a kitab called Ikmal al-Mu'lim. He said, قتال والخروج عليهم حرام بالإجماع وقول بعض أصحابنا بأنه يعزل خطأ لأنه مخالف للإجماع. That's Ubbi's statement. And he refutes those people who say otherwise, who argue things like that.
So first of all, he even read it wrong. It's not قتالوا, it's قتالهم. He said قتالوا. Oh my God. Look at that arrow where it's over. So he started from here. So as you see what he said before, وَقِيلَ. And Ubbi saying it is said. And we'll show you what Ubbi says after. Because he says, قُلْتُ. Fighting them and doing khuruj. It says, وَالْخُرُوجُ عَلَيْهِمْ حَرَامٍ بِالْإِجْمَعِ وَقَوْلُ بَعْدَ أَصْحَابِنَا بِأَنَّهُ يُعْزَلْ خطأ لأنه مخالف للإجماع. For khuruj against them and it's haram بالإجماع. And the statement of some of our companions that he should be removed is a mistake because he opposes the ijma'. And then what did he say? He said, and Ubbi then refutes those who say otherwise. Let's listen.
That's Ubbi's statement. And he refutes those people who say otherwise, who argue things like that.
You see? So let's see what Ubbi actually said. Okay, let's see what Ubbi actually said. So he said, وَالْمُرَادُ بِالْكُفْرِ فِي الْحَدِيثِ الْمَعْصِيَةِ. He says that the murad of kufr here, because it's explaining the hadith, إِلَّا أَن تَرَوْا كُفْرًا بَوَاحًا. He's sort of explaining that. So he said the murad of kufr in this hadith means sin. This is what Ubbi is saying. Okay, Ubbi is saying this. They said, except that if you see something munkar that which is established proof, عندكم من الله فيه برهان, that you have a proof from Allah Azza wa Jalla, meaning from the Quran, and obviously you could use the Sunnah as well. And is that meaning that from the qawaid al-shara, from the principles of the Sharia. Then he says, if you see that, then reject it from them. And then he says, listen to this, where the arrow's over. Look at Abdulrahman Hassan, so much distortion in this one passage, and he didn't even quote it. He only quoted like the first part. He says, look, now if Al-Ubbi saying, وَأَمَّا الْخُرُوجُ عَلَيْهِمْ. And as for khuruj against them and fighting them being haram, look what he says where the arrow's over, the other arrow. He says, قُلْتُ, is I said. Now Al-Ubbi speaking. It is not hidden from you. Listen to this. It is not hidden from you. After holding kufr to be a sin and the revolt of Hussein and Ibn Zubair, verily their revolt was a result of Yazid's sinfulness, not kufr. Revolt. You see that? You argue that they did not do khuruj. Al-Ubbi is saying the complete opposite of you, whereas he's agreeing with me. This man be trusted? Can this man be trusted, brothers and sisters? Look how much deception in this one paragraph Al-Ubbi. He didn't quote what was before. He didn't quote what was after. And when he said Al-Ubbi was refuting those, more like he refuted you. If you would have read, he's refuting you, mate. Allahu Akbar. Honestly, you are a fraud. Honestly, this one passage you were trying to use, and this is leading up to Trainwreck Part 3. I'm just showing you, mentioned 32, 33 names. This one name that you mentioned, Al-Ubbi, mate, you lied. You didn't even quote the book. You just skipped, like you missed the first half. You went to the second, quoted like a bit of a sentence from there, and then ignored the rest. You see, the distortion, and that was the page after. Okay, subhanallah al-azim. So he mentions 529, he mentions وَأَمَّا الْخُرُوجُ عَلَيْهِمْ. As for doing khuruj against them and fighting them being haram, okay, it is not what? it is not hidden from you, after holding kufr to be a sin, that the revolt and the rebellion of Hussein and Ibn Zubair, verily their revolt was a result of Yazid's sinfulness and not kufr. So Al-Ubbi is basically saying that Khurooj, yes, some have stated an ijma', waqila, it is said, but it's not a binding ijma', okay? And there is no ijma' on Khurooj. Again, it's better not to do it, but there's no ijma' on Khurooj. So there you go. So it's clear that Abdulrahman Hassan was being very shrewd and distorting the original Arabic and added the word in English to make it out that Imam Bukhari was talking about the oppressive Muslim rulers. No, as we've just been through, that it means the righteous, just ruler. Don't dispute with them. No doubt about it. Don't dispute with them. Okay, no doubt about it. Haram bil ijma'. Don't rebel against those rulers. But the ones that are oppressive, depending on the degree of oppression, depending if you've got the power means, then it's a masail dhanniya, it's a masail ijtihadiyya. No one's saying you can't. You're not a khariji, you're not a mubtadi'ah if you do so. Now, I'm going to show you now, getting back to, where's it gone? Oh, bloody hell, so many books. Oh, put that there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to present the whole context of Imam Bukhari's aqidah or i'tiqad, which Abdulrahman Hassan missed out. So let's go back to Sharh al-Usul al-i'tiqad, and I'm going to present context now. Because when they present these passages, they add their own spin and try to force their own deviant methodology, i.e. this neo-Salafi rhetoric, into these passages. Now I'm going to show you when the ulama mentioned the i'tiqad, it was countering the deviant mubtadi'un, the deviant innovators who obviously were present at that time, and it was highlighting our i'tiqad, countering our khisal, our characteristics, and refuting al-bid'ah. And remember, all of this is clear from the passage. So let's now present this. So as you can see on screen, so here's the original passage that Abdulrahman Hassan quoted. So he mentioned that Imam Bukhari mentioned that I met more than 1,000 men from the people of knowledge, from the people of Hijaz, wa Mecca, wal Medina, wal Kufa, wal Basra, wal Wasil, wal Baghdad, wal Sham, wal Misr, and I met them continuously, you know, qarn ba'da qarn. And then he mentions I met them numerous times, basically over 46 years. And he mentioned obviously the people of Sham and Misr and Hijaz twice, Basra 4 times, etc, etc. And he mentions obviously the amount of times he met. And then he mentions the people in Sham, he mentions all the names there, and in Misr he mentions all the names, and then in Mecca he mentions all the names, and in Medina he mentions all the names, and in Basra he mentions all the names, and in Kufa and in Baghdad and the people of Hijaz and Wasit, and etc, etc. So now we got the aqidah of Imam Bukhari. Okay, we're going to quote it now, and we're going to show you, look at the context and which groups was he countering when mentioning this. This is the khisal of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. I mean, this is the characteristics of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, our beliefs. It's countering al-bid'ah. So the first one is, inna ad-din qawl wal amal, that indeed in this religion is speech and actions. Now this is countering the Murji'ah. Okay, this is countering the Murji'ah, meaning that the Murji'ah believed that whatever you do is like fasl al-amal wal iman, that the amal, I mean the actions are separated from iman. So you could do whatever you want, providing you believe, okay, nothing will happen, okay. But we hold the belief that in this religion, basically the speech, that in the deen qawl wal amal, that indeed the speech and action has a bearing on the iman. And then he presents an ayat of Allah Azza wa Jal highlighting that fact. Then, so now we got that covered. It's countering who? The Murji'ah. It's countering the Murji'ah because they rejected that amal has a bearing on iman. So that's countering that. You see the context now? Tick that box off. Who was this countering? This aqidah is countering the Murji'ah. He mentions وَأَنَّ الْقُرْآنَ كَلَامُ اللَّهِ غَيْرُ مَخْلُوقٍ, that the Qur'an is a speech of Allah and is not created. Now who is this countering? This is countering the Mu'tazila, who believe the Qur'an is created. Okay, so you see, the khisal of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the aqidah of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah is refuting those al-bid'ah who had deviant beliefs. So the first one was the Murji'ah. Like he said, in the deen qawl wal amal, that in this religion, okay, that the speech is sayings and actions. So that's a Murji'ah, ticked. And the Qur'an is a speech of Allah, ghayr makhluq, Mu'tazila, ticked. Okay, so as you can see, done. Okay, so you see context when you present the context. Let's carry on. Then he mentions وَأَنَّ الْخَيْرَ وَالشَّرَّ بِقَدْرٍ, that good and evil, okay, is basically created by Allah, is, you know, the qadr of Allah Azza wa Jal. And then he mentions the ayat of Surah Al-Falaq, and then he mentions the ayat of Allah Azza wa Jal, which is Wallahu khalaqakum wa ma ta'malun. Pay attention, that we do not make takfir of anyone from the people of Qibla with sins. And then he mentions the verse that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not forgive anyone who commits shirk with him, and he forgives anything else. And then he mentions that they forbade bid'ah, etc. And then he mentions the verse that hold on to the rope of Allah, do not be divided, etc. And then he mentions other stuff as well. Then he gets to where the arrow's over, and you can see it highlighted. It says, do not dispute with those in power. Now Abdulrahman Hassan translated it as, do not we do not go against the oppressive Muslim ruler. Let's listen to him.
He mentions the aqidah is what? وَأَلَّا نُنَازِعَ الْأَمْرَ أَهْلَهُ, that we don't go against the oppressive Muslim leader. لِقَوْلِ النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وسلم, because of the Prophet's statement, and then he mentions the hadith.
And then he mentions the last phrase, and that we do not see the sword upon the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now, this is now presented into context. Yes, okay. That, there you go. We don't accept that the sword upon the ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, as you can see, the aqidah of Imam Bukhari, as he mentioned, okay, that they were warning against al-bidah. You see, the start was al-murji'ah, the second was al-mu'tazila, the third was al-qadariyah, meaning about qadar, and then he mentions al-khawarij. You see, when you place it into context, and obviously he mentions thereafter that we do not relinquish or dispute with those in power, because the Khawarij used to make takfir of them and then rebel against them. You see, that was prominent. That's what they were consistently doing. This was their manhaj, this was their aqidah. So we were countering that, because we do not dispute with those in power. And obviously those in power, meaning the righteous ruler, the ruler of justice. The Khawarij didn't care. The Khawarij made takfir of the people and rebelled against them. Those who committed the kaba'ir, obviously, but they made takfir very loosely. And they used to kill the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ. This was known. What we're presenting is that when you present all of these passages from the books of the Salaf, etc., understand its context. Do not, misquote and do not misapply and misrepresent the books of the Salaf to then forge your plastic and again, I believe all Salafis, or not, if not all, that's a bit harsh, but most of these Salafis have this inner takfirism. Again, this is due to the Najdi da'wah, but when it comes to al-bidah, some use it in terms of tabdi', have this tabdi' project, and some have this takfiri project, and this is obviously courtesy of the da'wah and the manhaj of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab. So we already proved he's a fraud. Okay, we're going to prove it even more. Don't worry, Train Wreck Part 3, as you can see on screen. We got that coming as well in the new year, bi-idhnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So recently, there's been an uproar in the land where Abdulrahman Hassan is, and what I'll do is explain it briefly, that the rulers of the United Arab Emirates have opened up a place of worship called Bayt al-Ibrahimi. Okay, Bayt al-Ibrahimi, and this is caused uproar. And what I'll do, before going into it, I'm going to play Sheikh Uthman al-Khamis. Sheikh Uthman al-Khamis has some strong choice words about this particular Bayt or place of worship that the United Arab Emirates have opened. So let's listen to him.
وهذا من الكفر. هذا دعوة البيت الإبراهيمي كفر بالله تبارك وتعالى، أن يجعل ثلاثة أديان، وأن الإسلام ويضعون القرآن والتوراة والإنجيل سواء مع بعض. الإنجيل محرف، توراة محرفة، يجعلونها مع القرآن يقول سواء. So
you heard Sheikh Uthman al-Khamis, and I'll translate it for you. He had some very strong words. He said that this Bayt al-Ibrahimi, that has been, built by the UAE leadership, it's kufr. It's kufr in Allah Azza wa Jal. Major kufr. Now, the hadith that I've quoted, there's a passage right at the end, okay, which Abdulrahman Hassan needs to implement. Because at the end of the day, if he's going to be talking about a shirk and make takfir on the Brelvis, like blanket takfir on the Brelvis, because he's so passionate about Tawheed and he's against shirk and against kufr, this is right under his nose. The same way Abu Mus'ab, okay, when he was critiquing protests and he said, there's, intermingling and there's free mixing and, the protests, because he's following that Super Salafee narrative. But when Saudi National Day was happening under his nose, because he lives there, Silence. So now Abdulrahman Hassan is talking about kufr and talking about shirk and talking about tawheed, etc. Right under his nose is Bayt al-Ibrahimi, but we won't hear a whisper from him. So let's present the hadith, okay? Well, I'm not going to show the books are there because I've got the PDF, so let's go into that. So as you can see, 4151, it says that and we do not dispute with those in power, and look what it says, وَأَن نَقُولَ أَوْ نَقُومَ بِالْحَقِّ حَيْثُمَا كُنَّا. What does it say? Subhanallah al-Azim. It states that we would speak the truth or stand firm in the way of the truth wherever we may be, and we do not fear the blame of the blamers. And then 4152, he mentions, we do not dispute with those in power, we do not go against the oppressive Muslim ruler. I don't know where you got that one from. And then what does it say? وَعَلَى أَن نَقُولَ بِالْحَقِّ, that we will speak the truth wherever we are. 4153, what does it say? وَعَلَى أَن نَقُولَ بِالْعَدْلِ أَيْنَ كُنَّا لَا نُخَافُ فِي اللَّهِ لَوْمَةَ لَائِمٍ, and that we will what? Say or basically command justice, stand for justice wherever it may be, and we will not fear the blame of the blamers. Subhanallah. Riyadh al-Salihin also mentions the same thing. أَن نَقُولَ بِالْحَقِّ أَيْنَمَا كُنَّا. Let's go to Imam Malik, Muwatta of Imam Malik. Also, what does he say? أَن نَقُولَ أَوْ نَقُومَ بِالْحَقِّ حَيْثُمَا كُنَّا لَا نَخَافُ فِي اللَّهِ لَوْمَةَ لَائِمٍ. We will speak the truth. We will speak or we will stand for the truth wherever we may be, and we don't fear the blame of the blamers. Let's go now to Sahih Muslim. All of it's there. أَن نَقُولَ بِالْحَقِّ أَيْنَمَا كُنَّا لَا نَخَافُ فِي اللَّهِ لَوْمَةَ لَائِمٍ. Same thing here. We will speak the truth wherever we may be. Now, I'd like to ask you, Abdulrahman Hassan, you're in the United Arab Emirates right now. We got Bayt al-Ibrahimi, which is kufr, major kufr, okay? As Sheikh Uthman al-Khamis mentions, and you are there, is right under your nose, and you haven't whispered about it. So this is the point. You are slave to the rulers. You know what? Slave to the rulers. You know, and you know what I'm trying to say with that? I don't want to go into it because people might think it's a bit graphic, but that's what you are. That's what you are. You are there, you're talking about at-tawheed, you're talking about, you know, the benefits of tawheed, about striving to implement at-tawheed, worship of Allah Azza wa Jal, dua to Allah Azza wa Jal, not have any, intermediaries, etc., and refrain from shirk, because shirk is dhulm al-azim, which it is, and that we, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not forgive shirk, but forgives everything else, all the, dangers of shirk that you warn against, and you got kufr right under your nose. And yet you don't whisper anything. So I would like now for you to be consistent. Please make a video. Don't mention by name. Like Sheikh Uthman al-Khamis didn't mention him by name. I dare you. I see if you don't fear the blame of the blamers, as per the hadith that we've mentioned consistently. But no, nothing, and it's been like nearly a couple of years now, or probably just over a year. But we don't hear nothing from you. You see how distortions were presented by Abdulrahman Hassan. Very, very lengthy video, showing you everything in context. And we went through the books and we've shown you how this individual is a known fabricated distorter, manipulator. He lied right in front of you. He added a phrase which doesn't exist. What he quoted, it doesn't exist. That phrase doesn't exist. And we showed you what the Shurah said and how they explained it. Honestly, Trainwreck Part 3 is coming out as well, which will be more detailed. But this is just a snippet from there. This man is an absolute fraud. And he's a closet takfiri. He tries to... it's part of this third wave Najdism, isn't it? That, this diluted, sugar-coated, as I said, heretical Salafiyya or Najdiya or Wahhabiyya, because the Wahhabis, in the early Najdiya called themselves Wahhabi, so you shouldn't have a problem with saying Wahhabi. So Abdulrahman is a fully fledged card-carrying Wahhabi, closet takfiri, and at the end of the day, what I always say is that I wouldn't waste a second with you. Like I said previously, I wouldn't trust you with my Walker's crisp packet, mate. Never mind my religion. And you're charging people and teaching kids, etc. Fair enough. And this is the reality of this individual. He hasn't had this microscope, and this is the reality of this individual. Honestly, he hasn't had this heat on him. This microscope over his words and over his references, and he never presents it on screen. Do you know why? Because he's a fabricated distorter. So This video will shock many. And again, like I said before, there is no ijma' and khurooj. There is no ijma' and khurooj. It's better not to do it. And it's your Holy Grail, I keep saying it, bloody hell, like, this is their, astaghfirullah, it's like their deen, like khurooj, like, like rebellion, like, because that's what this third wave Najdism, these plastic Najdi Wahhabis have washed them with, and have, they carry this sort of strings, don't they? And subhanAllah al-Azim, look, I'm not going to go into this even further because my videos in 2022 will come out and show you that people can cry and complain, oh Hajji, you don't teach us, Hajji. Look, we have to tackle this head on. We can't allow them to distort the text, because he's a regurgitating machine, he just parrots it, he's just a parrot, he just memorizes, he just regurgitates it like a sheep. SubhanAllah al-Azim, and this is the person that people, SubhanAllah al-Azim, like, look at his memorization, yeah, with the screen behind him, he hasn't denied it, because he knows it's true. He's got a screen behind him, his eyes are flickering left and right. SubhanAllah al-Azim. Yes, I'm not saying that he doesn't have knowledge, of course he does, but it's just, spoon-fed, and he hasn't got no critical thinking, like Brother Hijab said. He hasn't got no critical thinking at all, literally. But may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide him and us. So take care of yourselves. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad.
كم مرة عصف الأنين بداخلي كم مرة قد ذاق قلبي من أساه محن تمر وكم كرهت مصابها لكن رأيت الخير يسكب في أنا كم مرة قد ضقت من عظام البلاء بشر وشيطان يحاصرني أبا كم مرة قد أظلم الدرب ضحى وتحدر الدمع وضاقت بي رؤى كم مرة عصفت أنين بداخلي كم مرة قد ذاق قلبي من أساه محن تمر وكم كرهت